Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about none other than Luka Doncic. One thing that I distinctly think of when I think of Luka Doncic is his ability to lob the ball. So today we're going to take a deeper look and try and understand what leads to Luka's lobs and why he's so good at them, and why in particular the Lakers have now built an offense that tries to encourage them the same as the Mavs did previously. We're going to break this into 4 categories. We're going to talk about 2 on the ball, engaging the big, cuts, and set plays, and we'll discuss the nuances of each of them. Let's go. So the first clips we've been looking at are 2 on the ball. And it's essentially when Luka's going to come off the screen, we're going to see the big, the defending big, is going to stay with Luka to make sure Luka doesn't have any openings temporarily. Doesn't even have to stay with him very long. You can see Miles Turner is backing up aggressively. However, he's just simply going to stay here slightly, and it's easiest to see on this example because we have nobody that can play defense with Jackson Hayes. So because Turner's up here with Luka Doncic, that means there's nobody over here with Hayes, and Hayes has a clean path to the rim. Now, usually there's going to be slightly more help than we saw in that example. The reason there's usually going to be more help is because you're going to have offensive players over here in the corner. And so essentially what we're looking at right now is Hayes versus the big and this defender right here. This defender is going to be the primary rotation that's now responsible for the big coming downhill because this big is engaged with Luka Doncic. So again, we see Hayes right there. And the issue is this guard has left the vicinity, and now Hayes has free reign to the inside, and that is exactly what Luka is waiting for every time. So those are the 2 reads that Luka is trying to make. 1, the defending big, is he going to stay with me? And then 2, the opposite side guard, how much space is he giving him? So here, we see the big is stepped up right here, and the opposite side guard is not engaging with Hayes, and there's no one between Hayes and the rim. And I think this one actually shows the clearest example of whose responsibility it is. So we're watching this guard over here. Again, same thing. He doesn't step up. Hayes is right there. You can see immediately there's a grimace on his face as Alvarado points to the bench and says that's him. He gives a thumbs up. He acknowledges that was his responsibility that he did not cover. And so on defense, your real option is 1, you could switch potentially where you just have this player, OG Anunoby, stay with Jackson Hayes and they don't have an issue. Or you could have Jalen Brunson here, has got to be over here helping, and you got to tag him early. You got to hit him up here early so that Jackson Hayes isn't able to get down here to the rim, because this is obviously a clean dunk. So the trade-off is if Brunson helps down, then you're going to give up something open in the corner potentially, but I mean, Hayes isn't missing that dunk, so you'd probably rather give up a corner 3. And then the final idea would be if you essentially gave up the corner, so this defender helped over to make sure this isn't here, and then you were able to rotate behind it. But the Lakers are intentional about this, so there's a reason that Dalton Connect is the one over here, and so that's because Dalton is their best shooter that's on the floor currently. And so that draws more gravity, and so this defender feels like he has to stay closer. And Giannis, the one who would be the ideal one to tag this roller because he's the most athletic on the floor, is on the strong side, so that way he isn't able to be the one that comes over here. Realistically, if this is a bad shooter, Giannis probably could still tag it, but that's not the traditional rotation. Then the second area that Luka gets lobs, I'm going to call it, is engaging the big. And that's going to be where he essentially beats the first guard. And because there's no one else to stop the drive, the big steps up. And that means that usually Jackson Hayes, whoever the post player is essentially unguarded down here, and Luka just puts it up there for Jackson Hayes to put it down. I've talked about this in the past, but essentially as soon as you get a player that looks to block the shot, and defensive players love to fully engage in blocking the shot, as soon as you leave your feet, though, Luka's going to look to punish that. And so Jaren Jackson commits. He hasn't even actually left his feet yet, but because he commits to Luka, that means Hayes is going to be open on the other side. So I actually think in a lot of these clips, the defense does the right thing. It's just really difficult once that initial defender gets beat. So Michael Porter Jr. was looking inside, goes to close out, gets blown by Luka, which, I mean, is part of the reason that Denver traded him. And so you have Watson on the inside is in a good position. Aaron Gordon had to step up, but it's extremely difficult because this defender's on the outside. He has to get all the way in and make contact to get to the inside to be physical. And it's really hard to make up that distance once that initial defender gets beat. So again, right here, Herter gets beat. And so, I mean, Luka's coming downhill, and so the big has to step up, or else he's going to get a clean look. And again, I think this is good defense. He takes a step up, and then he tries to go back. The issue is Jackson Hayes is now going forward versus the defenders going backwards. It's really hard to make up that ground. And one of the better examples, I think, is with the Suns, because they're an extremely small team they're going to be really, really prone to this, especially because they switch everything. So now you have a big that's out here on Luka, even a relatively quick big, doesn't matter. Luka's going to get to the middle of the paint and pack on defense. They're going to step up aggressively. And so you're left with this guard. And Beal's in a good spot. Like, he's in a good spot. It's just you're not going to out-jump Jackson Hayes. You're just not going to that situation unless your name is Giannis. Like, that's the only type of player that's going to have a chance. And so if you're looking at this from a defensive perspective, what you really have to do is, one, try and not get beat initially. So I'd say Anthony Edwards, don't leave your feet there. Yeah, you're going to give up a contested three. That's life. Stay on your feet so that you can stay between Luka and the basket. But then if you do end up getting beat, so Luka has the inside edge right here, it's got to be a team effort where one of these two players, you're going to pick and choose who's the worst shooter out here. I mean, it's tough. They're both decent shooters. But one of you has got to be on Jackson Hayes and you got to bump him, because Rudy Gobert can't be here trying to guard two people. And Rudy Gobert, frankly, does a great job. He jabs there, but Luka's like, okay, nope, you got to stay with me. He's going to try and make sure you respect the shot, and Rudy jumps for it. And it's got to be a team effort once he gets to the paint like that. So our third category is going to be the cut. And so this one has quite a bit of nuance to it, but the first example, it's going to be essentially Luka just beats them both. So, I mean, you can't put two on the ball and have both get beat. And that's the first thing. But Kawhi is going to step up. And because Vanderbilt's very athletic, he's going to just cut to the rim. And as Kawhi sets up, there's no one to stay with Vanderbilt. And so that's an easy dunk at the rim. But then again, the big's going to get beat again. And like, you can't get crossed over to the middle. Like, you just simply can't allow that. You got to force Luka to keep going the same direction. Otherwise, your defense has to rotate aggressively. And so the help comes from CJ McCollum. And so he steps up. But then Vanderbilt, again, no one's with him. So he just cuts to the rim. And very difficult to stop that. But the real next level play that I like is we're going to see from LeBron's cut here. So Hayes is going to roll to the rim. Frankly, the defense, I think, does the right thing. And so this is what I was talking about, is you need to have the next defender be the one that steps up here to stop Jackson Hayes rolling to the rim. And so he does the right thing. But LeBron's like, okay, well, if you're going to step up, the next option is now this defender is no longer looking at me. So I'm going to cut into this new space. And that's the next level that Luka and LeBron thrive with. This is a very, very high level concept. And so then the next rotation is essentially this player is thinking that he's in the corner. Mataz Buzelis thinks that he's in the corner over here. So instead, you got to peek essentially and see that LeBron's cutting. And you got to yell at this defender that he's got to get back because LeBron's cutting. And maybe even Mataz has to be like, okay, well, LeBron's cutting, so I got to bump Jackson Hayes. Very difficult situation for the defense. Frankly, there's probably no good answers. And then the final instance is going to be a set play. And this is something I'm sure that JJ drew up after a timeout or something like that. But we're going to have a back screen set for your dunker, essentially. And Jackson Hayes is going to come free. No help responsibility and a dunk at the rim. Same thing. This one's for LeBron. First off, it's important that Jackson Hayes is setting the screen right here to occupy the big. So instead of him being in the paint, he's going to be out here. And then Austin Reeves is going to set a screen on this other player that's guarding LeBron. And back screen, and essentially you got Reed Shepherd is the last line of defense. And I mean, he's probably not going to contest LeBron, So Luka thrives so much with creating the lob simply because he does a great job of punishing the defense if they have two on the ball. That's the first thing. If you have two on the ball and you don't have rotation, he is 100% going to punish you. But then also one-on-one. If he can do things to engage the big, he's always going to look to try and punish them with that lob over the top because the help defense is going to be so slow naturally. And then third, if you do provide good help, the cut is always going to be an option because you can cut into space where there's no further rotation. Luka has already created all the help that you can have. And then as the final option, LeBron and the Lakers can run set plays to try and get dunks at the rim for LeBron and or their other athletic players. Luka thrives under these situations, loves with the ball in his hand. He is going to find open shots a huge amount of the time. If you enjoyed, feel free to like and subscribe. But most importantly, have a blessed rest of your day.